Greetings from the vet, where Benson just had a good checkup. Last time we saw the Passat on the channel, I was in the middle of fixing a code for a Misfire. It was a bunch of codes in a trench coat, and it was starting to make my car a little bit of a basket case. And after doing some digging, I discovered I needed to replace an overly complicated PCV valve. And it ended up fixing the car. Now, a couple years later, I feel like I'm in the same spot. I ended up with a Misfire shortly after I did a tune-up. I ended up damaging a lot of the grounds while replacing the coil packs, and I thought I had made a new problem. I've repaired and replaced those wires, and it was not the case. The Misfire is so bad that every time I try to give it the beans, it goes into cylinder shutdown mode. It still works like a normal car, as long as I try to drive like a grandma, which means I don't get to race any of my Toyota Corolla counterparts. So for now, I have to leave the racing to the professionals. Wait, is that a Shelby Cobra? I think that's a freaking Shelby Cobra. Anyway, in this video, we're going to play a frustrating game of whack-a-mole with a Misfire. Now for the Passat, I use OBD11 because it was helpful in diagnosing the complicated oil sump PCV problem. Plus, I like to see the live data that could help me verify what I'm seeing and hearing with the engine. The OBD11 app is trying to get me to upgrade, but I just don't feel like it yet because I like this interface. Microsoft is trying to also get me to upgrade to Windows 11, but I still love Vista, baby. So far in the process, I've already replaced the coil packs, and I've repaired all of the wires that I damaged during the tune-up. I've not taken a look at the spark plugs because I have a history of stripping spark plug threads in aluminum heads. Plus they're newer, so I'll try to save the spark plugs for last. At this point, all of my reading has led me to think I should take a look at the Crankshaft Position Sensor. It could be causing my Misfire, and it's only a $30 part. It can't be that hard to replace, right? You have to go underneath and remove the millions of bolts that hold on this weather cover. This weather cover guards the engine from mud, water, and road debris. To zap the bolts off, we're going to use this drill, my Black & Decker drill with a Ryobi battery connected with a custom adapter that I made with a 3D printer. I'll leave a link to the file in the description. We're also going to use these hex tools, which you will need for all Volkswagen stuff. We're going to use this pick, which you occasionally need to remove switches and connectors. And here it is, the piece de resistance, the sensor we're going to replace today. Could it really just be this little $30 part that does the trick? Here's to hoping. We zap those bolts off. And boom, the weather cover is off. Also, if you're going to be on your back under a car, try not to leave your remote in your pocket. You'll save your hearing in the long run. A few bolts here and there, and we're pulling out the air intake and the radiator fan. All this for a little sensor. This sensor. Whether or not this is the problem, it's probably a good thing I'm fixing it. It looks bad. Now to install the new sensor back under the car for a spell. Now before I button up everything, I need to make sure that the car will start. That'll let me know if the new sensor works. Got it. I also noticed that my fan has been vibrating a lot in the summer. Turns out I have a crack in this fan. I may have to make another video on that. Now to put everything back together. If only it were as easy as the jump cuts make it look. I wanted to take a look at my bumper also because I busted this thing loose when I looked at a tire stop the wrong way. I think it's a good time to fix it while I have the car up, but I'm also curious to look inside the cavity behind the bumper. A long time ago, I dropped a tool in there on the driver's side. So what I'm going to do here is fit these parts together a bit better to make it look nice. And to do that, I need to pull this piece on this side apart. Pay dirt. My Xbox tool I lost 5 years ago while replacing an air filter. Because apparently Volkswagen takes the same tools as Xbox. So if you fix Xboxes, you can fix a Volkswagen. It's nice to have this back after 5 years. I think I need to make a video where I restore this thing. Now we get everything back together. We drop it down, air up the tires, and get everything going, and we're ready for the road. But unfortunately, after the first test drive, I discovered this wasn't the fix. Here's more misfires. This game of whack-a-mole continues. Cylinder number 4 was already making me angry, but now I have this nice cylinder number 2 situation. So I'm going to have to make a different move and check the fuel injectors. There's an injector kit that's relatively cheap at FCP Euro. They haven't paid me to say that yet. I just noticed the price because on the forums it says that for the 1.8 TSI, some folks have had to replace the injectors as early as 40,000 miles. There's also another part you should grab, and I'll tell you about that shortly. Now we start to rip everything apart. The plenum can be tricky to remove, and the good part about time-lapse and jump cuts is that you can make 7 hours worth of work into a tiny video. I'm 2 hours into this step, and the biggest issue I'm running into with this part is clearance. I never have the clearance to pull a piece like this straight out. I always have to remove 7 things that are in the way. And then it's out. Now, one of the things that come in the injector kit is this plenum gasket. This gasket is important because it's a vacuum sealed engine that it's going on to. And all of these seals need to be able to do their job, or you can have worse issues. This engine is so sensitive, it can throw a trouble code if you remove the oil fill cap while the engine's running. I go ahead and clean all the channels with an old toothbrush because gingivitis is like vitamins for engines. We'll wipe it down and seat the new seal into the plenum. Then it's time to lie to my wife.
What's the finishing time?
6. What time is it right now?
4:50.
6. I got this off. Now I gotta pull the fuel rail off and replace. But I mean, yeah, this is the hard part.
Yeah.
Now that I've gotten that out of the way, we're going to cut some zip ties. They're holding a couple of wires onto the fuel rail. Then we'll pull the fuel rail out. Now we have access to those fuel injectors. And these injectors are really dirty boys. And even though I'm spending some time filming how dirty they are, I'm not asking why they're so dirty. However, when it comes to fuel delivery, you really want clean fuel injectors if you want to get good gas mileage. And these fellas are really dirty, especially cylinder number 1. It's almost corroded. Something I should note is that my injectors didn't come with that plastic ring you see here. And I didn't realize how much I needed these plastic rings, and I'll tell you why shortly. But just know when you buy the injector kit, you should get these as well. But while I'm filming this, I don't have the replacements, and I'll just have to put these old ones right back on because I need to drive my car out of this garage tonight. Now back to the fun part of putting everything back in. It's always easy to pull something out because you can just rip it away, but it doesn't work the same way going the other direction. Sometimes it's important to record a video so you can watch it back later and fix it. Or sometimes it's better to have someone with a better set of eyes.
But I lost the bit on after the last one was tightened. I could probably look for it, but
You just gotta stick the
If you want the camera, let me know.
Around.
oh yeah, there might be time to pull out the camera.
It's also pretty important to have someone with a scope handy. After a lot of struggling, I finally figure out where everything goes. We get everything connected, and then voila, it starts again. It's 9:30, a few hours later than I told my wife it would be, but it's done. And that's what really counts. Also, because I didn't put those seals back on, I didn't have those replacements, I end up with a nice gas smell. That's why it's so important to have those new rings.
It sounds like I gotta put some oil.
But the real question, did I solve my problem? Yeah, I solved my problem for the night. However, the next day, after a couple of starts, the problem showed back up. And so the game continues. The next thing I need to check is the thing I didn't want to check in the beginning of the video. I pull my spark plugs, and I find out my valve cover gasket is leaking into my cylinder through the spark plug ports. Valve covers are normally a relatively harmless thing to remove on an engine. However, as I said before, the 1.8 TSI is a vacuum sealed engine. They engineered it to assemble a bit differently. I go on the forums and read something about this repair, and I see something that could lead to a catastrophic failure if done incorrectly. After seeing that, I inspect the valve cover, and to my dismay, I confirm. The valve cover holds the cams in place. If I do this job wrong, I could put the engine out of time. A bad job could render this car useless. So all I'm able to do on this day is replace my spark plugs. I bought some new plugs, stuck them in there, and now I can give it the beans again. And look, almost zero misfires. However, this game of whack-a-mole is a high-stakes game, and the mole has taken a hostage. My problem is officially my valve cover gasket, and until I can find a spot to potentially leave the car for a couple days of work, I need to clean my spark plugs every time I want to drive. But for now, the mystery of the engine misfire is solved. And solving that mystery was the thing I set out to do. Hopefully soon I'll be able to figure out how easy it is to replace the valve cover gasket on this engine. And maybe I'll also replace the grounds permanently and have them run to a fixed position on the chassis. But for now, the mystery is solved. See you next time.